What's going on, everybody? This is Marcus from New Age Arcades. Decided to do a background video about me and my gaming history, where I grew up, what got me into gaming, what influenced me to start building arcade machines and hosting events and gaming tournaments, and what's next for the future. I'll have all my links and sites below on my social media: YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, X. The funding page if you want to contribute. All those links will be below. If you have questions, feel free to comment or message me. I decided to do a little background about me so people just don't think it's just some random out here, building all these machines up. But I'll go into some background, what got me into gaming, my humble beginnings, and just kind of go from there. I'm gonna start off by reviewing some of the machines I have done over the years and all the different changes and improvements I've been constantly making. So hopefully you guys enjoy it. Appreciate you watching. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe. But yeah, here we go. So just to go through a few of the projects is the custom virtual fighter machines 1 through 5, custom control artwork. It's a custom Daytona setups I did. Got the G27 race wheels and gaming chairs. It's the House of the Dead games. Always loved the rail shooters growing up. Carnival, House of the Dead 1 through 3. There's the Street Fighter 2 Champion Edition, SNK, Neo Geo, and CVS 2. Street Fighter machines. Just recently updated a lot of the artwork on these. Alpha 1, 2, 3, Third Strike, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, Street Fighter 4, and then the HD Street Fighter 4 machine, Street Fighter 5, Street Fighter 6. And here's all the Mortal Kombats. Just recently updated a lot of these. I still gotta finish the MK1 and MK4 artwork on these. And new Mortal Kombats, MK9, MKX, MK11, MK1. Killer Instinct. Still gotta finish updating the artwork on these two as well. They still look pretty good, but I still gotta do some more bezel and cabinet art on them. Checking machines, just recently did the artwork updates on all these. Checking 1 through 8. Soul Calibur machines. Definitely do some updated bezel art on these. They look pretty good though, even still, but Soul Calibur 1 through 6. And some of the Time Crisis shooting games. 1 and 2 and 3. And they're all system linked as well. 2 players. And the Dead or Alive machines. Gotta update artwork, the bezel art on these. They still look pretty good though. But I still gotta do a few updates on these here. Marvel vs. Capcom machines. Just recently updated the artwork on these. Marvel 3, Marvel Infinite. Got the anime fighters. Got Blaze Blue, Grand Blue, Guilty Gear Rev X, Guilty Gear Strive, Under the Night Ember, some Persona 4, and some Dragon Ball Fighters. So to start off, I'm from California, Northern California, a town called Fairfield, which is off of I-80 between San Francisco and Sacramento. So I grew up there, 80s, 90s, up to the mid 2000s. So growing up there, it was a town of about 90,000 people, so we had a decent population. Smaller town though. So we had places like Scandia, Chuck E. Cheese, Playland, and Skateland, the mall. I had like a Tilt arcade. So, and laundromats, movie theaters that all had arcades. So growing up, grew up playing games like Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, Tekken, and all the console games like Resident Evil and House of the Dead, Virtual Fighter, those kind of games. What got me into gaming, the first console I was really exposed to was the NES, the original Nintendo. So it's a family system, mom, dad, sister, me, my cousins, family, we all played Nintendo. So games like Mario, Track and Field, Duck Hunt, Mario 2, Mario 3, Metroid, Paperboy. We even played games like Tetris, Ninja Turtles, Zelda. So we really played Mario 1 and Mario 3, I would say the most. We always try to beat each other's time and see how quickly we could get through the levels and find out all the little hidden rooms and cheats. So those are my earliest memories of playing Nintendo. My cousin David was my exposure to Sega Genesis. He had a Sega and Nintendo, so he had like the Zelda and Mega Man games and it's like the Ninja Turtles arcade games. So he was my exposure to those games. But he had Genesis, so he had like Sonic 1 and Captain America and the Avengers and Charles Barkley, Slam, like those kind of games on Genesis. So he was my exposure to that. So growing up, we play that. And then free time, go to the mall. Go. My sister and her friends always used to love going to the mall, so I'll go with them. And I just go to the Tilt arcade, and that's where, I used to see Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat and those kind of games. Daytona USA, House of the Dead, Top Skater, Harley Davidson, LA Riders, like all those kind of games was there. And so those were my earliest memories of the arcade. And I just remember the atmosphere, like the energy was crazy because it was always like loud and there's always a new game out. It smelled like bubblegum and soda and popcorn all mixed. And seeing all the lighting and all the artwork of the different games. But it was just exciting going because when a new game would come out, like I remember when even like Tekken 3 came out, like people were just crowding the game, same with Marvel, and even the Mortal Kombat games. When a big game came out, it was crowds of people around, and it was always exciting just watching people play and just seeing like different techniques and secrets and combos people could come up with. Even if you weren't playing, it was just exciting to play. It was a whole different environment. So we would play at the mall. I used to go to Scandia, the front center a lot, which had like the little indie cars and miniature golf. But I was always in the arcade, so they had games like Harley Davidson and the LA Riders and like Alpine Racer, the little snowboard game where you can actually get on the snowboard and do the tricks. And they had like Top Skater, which is a skateboarding game with the actual skateboard. And games like Cruising USA, Daytona USA, Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter. So we used to go there pretty often. So they had arcade. Chuck E. Cheese, Playland, those places had them too. But I still, at home we play consoles. So my cousins, so my Uncle Chris, they had Super Nintendo. So they were my exposure to that. So they had like Killer Instinct and games like Street Fighter, Super Street Fighter 2 New Challengers, and they had other games on Super Nintendo too. I want to say, Donkey Kong and like Super Mario All-Star, Super Mario Road, and Yoshi's Island, like those kind of games. So they were my exposure to Super Nintendo. And then I had other friends in the neighborhood that had Genesis and Super Nintendo as well. Back then we used to rent games a lot, so that's when like Blockbuster, Hollywood Video, Home Cinema was a local video place, rental video store in our local town, so we used to go there. I didn't get my own console. I didn't get a Genesis till like 95. So my mom got that for me, and I ended up getting it came with Sonic 2, she got me Aladdin, and I ended up getting like Sonic 1, Street Fighter 2, and Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. So back then, even when I had a Genesis, I would just rent games. So like Sonic 3 and Sonic and Knuckles, I would rent. Moonwalker, like games like that, Michael Jackson's Moonwalker, and some of the other games that came out that were real popular, Streets of Rage. So we would rent a lot of games back then. So yeah, I didn't get a Genesis till 95. By 96, my Uncle Chris and because he had got a PlayStation, so he was my exposure to PlayStation. And he had like Tekken 1, Tekken 2, Tekken 3, and games like Rainbow Six, Resident Evil. They had the Resident Evil series, so we used to play that a lot. And he had different games. He had games like Tenchu 2, different games like that. So they were really my main exposure to the PlayStation. And then I ended up getting the PlayStation in like 98, and I ended up getting like Resident Evil 2, and Metal Gear Solid was a big game. That was like the first game I think I've ever stayed up all night till like 7 or 8 in the morning trying to beat it with my cousin David. So I'll never forget that. That was an experience. It's a cinematic gaming experience with Metal Gear, but I love the Resident Evil series, 1, 2, 3, Siphon Filter. Good, but he had Siphon Filter 2. I had like Einhinder 2, played some Tomb Raider 1 and 2. PlayStation was goated. And so back then, I would say by the time PlayStation and Sega Saturn came out, the 32-bit era consoles, that's when home consoles started catching up with the arcades. Like the ports started getting a little closer. Because the arcade versions were always like the best versions to play. So those were the ones the developers made, and they had dedicated boards or hardware specifically for playing the games. So the picture, the sound, the speed, all that was, top tier. So when it would port to consoles, you would always see like it was scaled down so much because the home consoles weren't as powerful. So when people play Street Fighter 2 or Mortal Kombat at the arcade, when they go home and play it on like Sega Genesis, it wasn't the same. The sprites were smaller, there was missing frames, sound bites were all choppy. It wasn't as sharp or as smooth as the original hardware. But once Sega Saturn and PlayStation came out, they started getting a lot closer to arcade perfect ports. The only downside was, since they were CD-based consoles, you ran into a lot of issues with loading. So games like Mortal Kombat, Mortal Kombat 2, MK3, you morphing into Shang Tsung, it take like 20 minutes just to change it to a character. Same with loading like fatalities and stuff like that. So you didn't really have that at the arcade. Saturn, I would say, was the closest arcade 2D port system. So games like X-Men vs. Street Fighter, Marvel Superheroes, when they got ported to Sega Saturn, those were flawless if we had the expansion RAM. So those were top tier console ports. So depending on the game, I would say Sega was always kind of the best at porting the arcade games. Um, PlayStation, I would say was a little bit better at the 3D games. So games like Tekken, when those got ported from arcade to the PlayStation, those were pretty close. Even though they had static backgrounds, they were pretty close to the arcade versions of the game. And then they had more content, like more characters and different game modes you could play. But I would say that the biggest difference was load times. So for me, around that time in '95, my mom and them got a PC, so we got Windows 95. So I got exposure to that side. So I was playing games like The Sin, Mech Warrior, Warrior 2, and then I ended up getting like Virtua Fighter, Virtual Cop, Daytona USA, and games like the original House of the Dead 1 on PC. Games like Need for Speed, things like that. So I got exposed to the PC gaming, and I ended up getting Mortal Kombat 3 and Mortal Kombat Trilogy on PC. And they, Mortal Kombat 3, I would say is probably the most arcade home port game I've seen. Cause especially the DOS version, if you played it in DOS, there was no load times, and it was just like the original arcade version of the game. That's the only port that I've seen was like a 1-to-1 perfect port, was the Mortal Kombat 3 DOS version. And then we got Mortal Kombat Trilogy. So I played a lot of those games on PC and the 16-bit systems like Genesis and Super Nintendo, because they didn't have load times. I didn't really play the Mortal Kombat games on Saturn and PlayStation just because the load times were just way too bad on those. But yeah, we were back then, 95, 96, 97, 98. We were still kind of going to the arcades, but we were starting to go less because the home ports were starting to get closer to the arcade versions. But you could still, the arcade still provided an experience you couldn't get at home, like the racing setup to Daytona or Cruising USA, or like the House of the Dead, the light gun games. So it was still like an experience that you couldn't get at home. But by then, we started going a little less and less. We're still going to arcades, but not as much. It wasn't until, I would say, Dreamcast came out, and that's what kind of killed it. Like, once that system came out, 98, 99, like, there was really no reason to go to the arcade anymore. Because now the arcade, that was like hardware that was just as powerful, if not more powerful in some cases, than the arcade version. So for instance, Soul Calibur, when it came out, it originally was programmed and designed for PlayStation hardware, but when they made it for Dreamcast, they took advantage of, they had more polygons and textures to the characters, and just everything looked better. It was like night and day. It was way better than the arcade version. So that was an example where like the console actually surpassed the arcade version. Same with Tekken Tag, like when it came out on PS2. It was an upgraded version since the arcade version was based on PS1 hardware. So that's when they started separating it, and then by that time we were playing at home. So that, then not to skip the 64 era, but like, I had friends that had 64, go to their houses and play games like Smash Brothers or 007, Perfect Dark, Mario Kart, Cruising USA, because you could play with 4 players in 64. So we'd go to their houses and play those kind of games in the late 90s, early 2000s. And so, yeah, we were just going to the arcade less and less by then. Once Dreamcast and PS2 came out, it was over. Once like Grand Theft Auto and all those games came out, it was like, nah. Between like 2000, 2010, no, we weren't really going to arcade like that no more. Because the console ports were so good, there was really no reason to go to the arcades like that anymore. So by that time, we kind of got lost in the sauce, I guess you would say, with the home ports of the game and the different type of games coming. I always loved building things, so ever since I was little, I always was into train sets and building cities, playing games like SimCity, building cities on there. So I've always loved building things, so building arcade games was just another hobby that I just ended up kind of loving to do around, like I said, 2010, 2011 is when it kind of started, and I just kind of been going from there. But the whole point of me doing it was to bring back that whole arcade legacy and, doing tournaments, getting people together so they can get exposure to old and new games, and just so people can experience the kind of energy you have at an arcade. The best analogy I could use like now is, so with people playing online, it's fun, but it's not the same as playing in person. So the best analogy I can use is like the casino. A lot of people have mobile games where they gamble online and play poker or blackjack and everything on their phone or tablet. But it's not the same as going to a casino and playing. It's a whole different thing. You step into a casino, you hear the sounds, you see the lights, the energy of the people, you hear the change dropping down into the coin boxes. A whole different atmosphere. People surrounding the tables, watching people play. It's a completely different atmosphere. So, and it's the same with the arcade. The arcade had that kind of energy. It's one, meeting new people, not seeing new techniques, seeing different people play the games and beat the games in different ways, and it just brought that competitiveness out of people. But it was an event. So you get to go see new games, see what they were like, meet different people. The energy was just different. So I wanted to bring that back. Same with when we used to have LAN parties back in the day, when everybody would get Xboxes and link it together and play games like Halo. Like, those days were fun because even though you're still playing against each other, since you're in the same room with each other, the energy is different. It just hits different than when you're trying to play online because you're so isolated from everybody. So I've just been trying to bring that energy back. What got me into building my own like the custom arcades, I would say that kind of started around 2010, 2011. Once I kind of found out how accessible the games were at home, and because a lot of the companies were coming out with like the arcade releases that you could buy on like PS2, Xbox 360, PS3. But once I found out how accessible it was, then it got me interested. I think I had like one of the first games I was playing when it was like the arcade version was Mortal Kombat 2 and UMK 3. And once I found that, I was like, I was hooked. Then I found out you can order the fight sticks, and then ended up finding out you can order the actual cabinet kits where you can put like the arcade cabinets together. So the first one I did, the one I built first was a Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. Was the first one I did. And after that, I was just kind of hooked. Like a few years later, once I moved into my house, I ended up building like Street Fighter 4, and then I ended up doing the custom Daytona setup, but I only had like 2 setups back then. And even with that, I ended up moving that to a room and doing a 4-player setup and building like the own custom racing seats and everything like that, and doing the system links. So I had to have that game, and then after that I built, I want to say the third game I did was Killer Instinct, like for the new 2013 Killer Instinct game, the reboot I guess you could say. And then I ended up doing Marvel vs. Capcom 2 cabinet, and then I did Mortal Kombat 2, and then I did Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and then Street Fighter 2, and then after that I did Tekken 7, and then I did Marvel vs. Capcom 3, an Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 machine, and then I ended up building like Soul Calibur 6, Dead or Alive 6, the X-Men, and it just went off from there. Like I've always loved building things. My goal would be to have all the machines out where people could play all the Tekkens, from Tekken 1 to Tekken 8, Mortal Kombat 1 to the new MK1, and or MK12 if you want to call it that. Same with the Dead or Alive, Soul Calibur, Neo Geo games. Just so much history. But yeah, I've always just kind of been into building it. As far as the future holds, hopefully I can just continue to build, the games. And like I said, just have a dedicated space where people can come and play. I like, and I just like to post the, kind of showcase the games so people can, get a history and feel like how the game's played and how they look, and get the younger kids more exposed to it. But yeah, hopefully the next step is to do more gaming events, probably do like birthday parties and things like that. So we'll just kind of see how that goes. But it's always been, a part of my history, a part of my growing up. So I definitely love, playing games. It's just like movies. It's just all entertainment. It's all escapism. I like to see people have fun and enjoy themselves, and that's really the biggest thing. Is that it's like people getting a chance to escape, have fun, meet new people, be around their friends and just enjoy themselves. But yeah, that's basically my background. Appreciate everybody who's always supported the channel and came to the events and just contribute to the I guess you could say the business, the legacy of the arcade and gaming history. And that's all it's about, is just keeping that legacy alive. So I appreciate everybody who's supported the channel, whether it's on social media or YouTube or Instagram or Twitch, whatever it's been on. So yeah, the goal is to keep going. Definitely have a lot more content coming. But yeah, guys have questions, you know where to hit me up. And till the next one, peace.